بحبك يا لبنان يا وطني بحبك مش مالك بذنوبك بسهلك بحبك.
Two oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman damaged under mysterious circumstances, their crews forced to evacuate. It's an incident reminiscent of the widely criticized sabotage attacks of last month. The Norwegian-operated Front Altair, carrying a highly flammable petroleum product, and the Panama-flagged Kokuka Courageous, carrying methanol, were both allegedly targeted in Iranian waters near the strategic Strait of Hormuz, a conduit for a fifth of all global oil consumption. Iranian news outlets say local search and rescue teams have picked up 44 sailors from the Front Altair before it sank in the Gulf of Oman. But the vessel's Norwegian owner says the tanker remains afloat. Confusion about the situation prevails, and Norwegian authorities have called on its ships in the region to exercise extra caution. Shortly after the suspected attack, oil prices soared, jumping as much as 4%, highlighting how crucial the area remains to global energy supplies.
And Iran's foreign minister has just commented on the incident on Twitter. Mohammad Javad Zarif tweeted this a short while ago. He said reported attacks on Japan-related tankers occurred while Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was meeting with Ayatollah Khamenei for extensive and friendly talks. Suspicious doesn't begin to describe what likely transpired this morning. Iran's proposed regional dialogue forum is imperative. All right, let's get some analysis on this story now. We have our security expert, Matthias von Hein, with us. Hi, Matthias. Give us the latest on what you're hearing about these incidents.
Well, I think the report pretty much summed up everything we know. There are conflicting reports about what happened to those tankers. One of those tankers was said to have been sunk. Other sources say it's still afloat. The crews, and I think that's very important, the crews are rescued. They have been evacuated. The 44 seamen have been rescued by an Iranian vessel. 20 other seamen have been rescued as well from the other tanker. I think it is important to really point out how important this Strait of Hormuz is, where this incident, this attack happened. It's really the most important artery for energy, for crude oil on this planet, with 20%, 1/5 of all crude oil and energy moving through it. So any attack, any incident there is really of the utmost relevance.
So, Matthias, given the strategic importance of these waters, if these are confirmed to have been deliberate attacks, who could the chief suspects here be?
Well, I think a lot of fingers will point to Iran, whether this is okay or not. But Iran has in the past repeatedly warned that if it is not able to export oil through the Strait of Hormuz, it will make sure others won't export either. And the Iranian oil export are hit very, very hard by the tightening US sanctions. But then again, as the Iranian Foreign Minister Zarif pointed out, at this very moment, the Japanese Prime Minister is in Iran trying to save the nuclear deal. There has been a lot of diplomatic push in recent days to keep this nuclear deal afloat, with the German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas in Tehran on Monday, and major, very important EU foreign affairs officials on their way to the region. So one has to be wary why at this point in time Iran would do such an attack. On the other hand, there are other actors in the region who might have an interest in keeping the tensions high, in stoking tensions between the US and Iran.
Who does it benefit?
To the extent you have, forces out there that want to topple the Iranian regime or actors, it benefits them. It gets this game on. It gets the U.S. Potentially to such a state of ire that we attack, and it gets the Saudis what they want, which is an attack on Iran and the Israelis too.
This is
راجع به اونچه که از قول ترامپ نقل کردید. من هیچ پاسخی به پیام ترامپ ندارم. به شما یه مطالبی رو میگم. اما به او هیچ پیامی نمیدم، چون ترامپ را شایسته مبادله پیام هم نمیدونم. مشکل ما با آمریکا این نیست که او قصد تغییر رژیم ایران را داره یا نداره. او اگر چنین قصدی هم داشته باشه قادر به اجرای اون نیست. در این 40 سال رؤسای جمهور آمریکا تلاش کردند که جمهوری اسلامی رو از بین ببرن و نتوانستن. این هم اگر میتونست این کار رو میکرد. اینی که میگه قصد ندارم دروغ میگه. اگر میتوانست میکرد، لکن نمیتوانه. او که درباره سلاح هسته‌ای حرف میزنه چند هزار کلاهک هسته‌ای تو انبارش داره. او صلاحیت نداره که بگه که فلان کشور سلاح هسته‌ای داشته باشه یا نداشته باشه. ما چرا؟ ما چون مخالف با سلاح هسته‌ای هستیم. میگه که ما آماده این مذاکرات صادقانه ای داشته باشیم با ایران. ما این حرف رو به هیچ وجه باور نمی کنیم و مذاکره صادقانه از کسی مثل ترامپ صادر نمیشه. مقامات آمریکایی صداقت توشون خیلی کمیابه. ما معتقدیم که از طریق مذاکره با آمریکا هیچ مشکلی حل نخواهد شد. آمریکایی ها بیشترین دشمنی رو که می توانستن ما بکنن کردن و دارن ادامه میدن. مذاکره زیر فشار رو هیچ ملتی، ملت آزادی قبول نمیکنه.
Who does it benefit?
To the extent you have, forces out there that want to topple the Iranian regime or actors, it benefits them. It gets this game on. It gets the U.S. Potentially to such a state of ire that we attack. And it gets the Saudis what they want, which is an attack on Iran and the Israelis too.
And back to a developing story that we're following. 2 oil tankers reportedly attacked in the Gulf of Oman overnight. The U.S. Navy is assisting the ships, and oil has taken a big move on the news. Joining us now is John Kilda, again, Capital founding partner and a CNBC contributor. It was closing in on a 4 handle, John, so probably ready to bounce, and this was a good reason.
Yeah, this is definitely a good catalyst for that to happen. This is the kind of nightmare headline that you don't necessarily want to wake up to.
Does it play out, though, in any way that actually affects supply and demand, or is it just all sentiment at this point?
It's a bit of sentiment, Joe, but what's starting to come out now, though, is, will regular ships be able to get insurance to transit through the area? That's sort of the fallout or the knock-on effect of this. Not necessarily these 2 ships themselves. There's clearly some mining or some smart torpedoing going on here. The damage of the ships that I've been seeing the photos and filming from Iran State TV, among other sources, has the exact same look and signature of what happened a couple of weeks ago.
So if an insurer might be in a position where it has to pay a claim, it probably won't insure the person. That's great.
Yeah, right, exactly.
When do you need it then?
Well, they're saying that there's mines all over the place now in their heads. So they're saying we're not going to insure you against going into this death trap.
What was it your forecast and what was in the analysis to call for $40 oil? Was that what you were looking for in the last 6 months?
The demand outlook for oil in particular has really deteriorated. I've been kidding around a little bit saying I've been trying to have oil grab the mantle of most damaged asset class by the trade war, the U.S.-China trade war. And I think over the past couple of weeks we've been able to sort of secure that because the main economies that are getting hit by the U.S.-China trade war fallout are the Asian ones and the German economy, which are the energy-centric demand growth economies. So that's what's really been ratcheted down. Even this morning in the monthly OPEC report, which was supposed to be the sort of top situation for us in oil instead of this, they ratcheted down their demand outlook significantly as well. So that's what's really been hurting oil. And of course, just the persistent 12.4 million barrels a day of U.S. supply has been a firewall against all these geopolitical events up until this morning. Now, we're only at 53. It is a decent-sized jump off the lows from yesterday when we were down pushing on 50, like you said. But, this is going to be worrisome. The curious thing is that what is really kind of who did it, if you will, because it doesn't really benefit Iran to mess up the transiting of the Strait of Hormuz
Why?
and the oil flows. Because they're going to alienate whatever supporters they had out there, like in the European Union, Asian customers that have been trying to work with Iran, trying to stick with the JCPOA, the nuclear deal, and keep them afloat
Okay,
here.
so let's get into the conspiracy theories. Who does it benefit?
To the extent you have, forces out there that want to topple the Iranian regime or actors, it benefits them. It gets this game on. It gets the U.S. Potentially to such a state of ire that we attack. And it gets the Saudis what they want, which is an attack on Iran and the Israelis, too.
This is why we're so cautious around reporting some of the events from this morning, because it is still very early on. We should point out that a month ago, when those 4 tankers were attacked, the EU and Saudi Arabia both came to the conclusion that it was Iran. Iran has disputed that. And in fact, Iranian ships have picked up some of the crew from those ships that were attacked today. It happened just 25 miles off their shore.
Right, and Iranian state TV is all over it, filming it and showing footage of
the ship on fire, too.
I mean, it doesn't make all that much sense that they would have done it, but, this is what makes this such a tricky commodity at times because of the countervailing influences.
We had the CEO of KHAMENEI on earlier today. That's an oil equipment company that provides equipment, I think, for 10% of the wells that have been drilled in the United States this year. He just said that really it even increases the value of the Permian Basin when you start seeing how difficult things could get and how quickly in a situation like that for oil coming from the Middle East.
No doubt, although they are a victim of their own success. I mean, again, oil would be $70, $80 a barrel, Becky, if we didn't have over 12 million barrels a day of U.S. production. I mean, we're just swimming in it. U.S. exports are 3 million barrels a day now. Pretty regularly, you're going to see that number jump to maybe 4 million barrels over the next couple of weeks, potentially, because there's so much ships, VLCCs in the Gulf picking up oil right now that, again, it's a weight against this kind of thing. If we had sanctions on Iran and what we had with Venezuela, the troubles we have in Libya and some of the other hot spots that pop up like Nigeria, this price would be much higher if it wasn't for the U.S. production. Like I've been saying, the supply of the U.S. has become a firewall almost against these sort of geopolitical events.
Well, that's
it's
the new
remarkable.
floor. It used to be Saudi Arabia and Russia, but it really is the floor.
As a matter of fact, we're doing so well and so much that the Saudis continue to ratchet down their production to try to prop up the price.
Who does it benefit?
To the extent you have, forces out there that want to topple the Iranian regime or actors, it benefits them. It gets this game on. It gets the U.S. Potentially to such a state of ire that we attack, and it gets the Saudis what they want, which is an attack on Iran and the Israelis, too.
This is
بحبك يا لبنان يا وطني بحبك مش